Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to EX11, Waikiki Dentist site, and we're continuing the CSS. We're at the very bottom of the page, and on this part, we're just going to do the bottom part, and I think I'll just do that for this video to keep it a nice short video that just focuses on the bottom part of the page. By the bottom part of the page, I'm talking about this part down here, and if you remember the other version, what it's going to look like, if you can see down here, is it's going to kind of be indented on either side, and it's going to be down from the container a little bit, and there's going to be kind of break in here. Now we can't set tabs and put things on I mean, I guess we could you could put non-breaking spaces in there if you wanted to, but what I'm going to try to do is float this to the side of that, make these two separate paragraphs and float them. So what I'll do with my CSS, and I have some of this set up for you, is I'm basically in my HTML, when you get to this part, and this is all in the footer part, so this is all the footer part, footer ID equals address. There's a paragraph that has her address, and then there's another paragraph with a class called write, and that's the one that actually has the created by. And notice there's another span class of branding, which I don't even know if I put that in, that I have that in the CSS, but that's the one that just kind of changes the color of it. But what we're going to do is we're going to float this to the right and float that to the left so they end up on the same line. And then we also have to adjust footer so there's a little space in it. So let's go back to our CSS and we'll work on just this bottom part. So here's footer address. Font size is 0.85 EM. That's already done for you. We're going to center the whole thing. So remember, you can't just center text align. They'll all go together. We're actually going to give it a, we'll do a margin, to center it. We'll do like a 0 and then an auto, just like we did with the container. So we'll do the same thing we did with the container to center the whole block. Now if I do that, let's just check it out. It's not going to work, and the reason it's not going to work because it's the full width of the page. You have to give it a width that's kind of smaller than this. You have to give it some width. So I didn't give it a width yet. So I have to give it a width, and I think for width I'll just start off with like 858. Oh, I put that for the padding, so I don't want that for the padding, so I'll cut that out of there, and I'll put that for width, and I'll see how that looks. And you can see actually that's not too bad. Maybe I'll just leave it at that. Except I want to float the one to the other side, and I also want some, it looks like I need some padding at the top here for at least one of these, since we didn't have an M in here yet. And that could, and if you want it on top and bottom, we could put 0 on the right and left for the footer address, and we'll just see how that looks. That looks okay. That gives a little space there on the top and bottom, so that's what we want, and there's our section. That looks pretty good. It lines up pretty well. We just want to actually put this created by dental branding, so it's over here, and what we're going to do is just basically target this, and we're going to give this a float left, and then we're going to give this a float right, and that may be all we need. And I'll check it out, and that's what it does, and that works okay. This is using a class. It's floating this class right. It's floating this paragraph left. The last thing that's here is this little branding class. And just so you see where this is, there's a branding class that's around. It's just, and you do it like this. Span class equals branding. And then you close the span tag. Whenever you need to do something that's like within a paragraph, if it's just a word or a couple words that you need to do in a certain way, you could use a span class. Because it's kind of like a character style in desktop publishing instead of a paragraph style. A span class just does those words. So if I just wanted those words to be a certain color, that's what I want them to be that blue color, and I'll just do the FFF, and there's my blue color for that. And then I want it bold, so I'll just put bold in there, and I'll check it out, and that's the way that should look at the bottom. So back to our CSS, I think we have most of our page done. And I'm going to save what I have, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to check it out. And I think as far as everything looks okay, our links all work. Now we don't have them linked to pages, but they all work, they look nice. Now if we resize this, the only problem we have right now is that we don't really have any, it's not really responsive. Okay, so it looks good. Actually, if we design the page for a computer screen, everything's done other than additional pages, and it looks pretty good. We have links over here. So what we're going to do next is the responsive part. So the last part of this is just going to be making this so that when we resize it, here's the one it's going to look like. It's going to look like this. So if we get to a certain breakpoint, I think it's the 850, it'll actually become like one column. It'll move the links down below. It'll put the links below here, and it'll remove some of the shadow and the border, and then if it even gets to full, like almost like the iPhone size, everything will show up in one column. So that's what we're going to do, hopefully, in our last video. So I'm going to stop here.